I think a lot of voters learned to vote by mail for the first time this last election. It's something we want to make sure we preserve in every single state. So, and our goal is to make sure everyone votes safely no matter how they do it. So thank you. Last but not least, David, because he is the guy that voted here. Is that right, David?
Yes.
And he is a voter from Fair Oaks who waited for hours to vote early at the Smyrna Community Center where we are today. David.
So, hi, my name is David Walker. I'm a resident of Cobb County since 2002. And I'm here in the Smyrna Community Center. This is where I voted at early. I showed up here on our first day of early voting for the general election at 5:30 a.m. Just like Marvin and Kelly, want to get it out of the way, make sure it's counted. I didn't vote by mail because historically voting by mail has not been, well, voting in Georgia has not been an easy thing. Everyone knows you're kind of on a weekly cycle of making sure you're still registered, if you've been purged. I'm the one who checks for my family and like, are you guys registered? Are you guys checking? Make sure you go do these things. But for the first day of early voting, I got here in person, 5:30. Polls open at 7, like Marvin said. I was one of the lucky people. I was able to get out in about 2 hours. But by the time I finished, the other people had it much worse than I am. The lines were wrapped around this building. There was no parking to be had. And Smyrna Community Center has a fairly large parking lot and ample parking in the Village Green area where we're at. And you just had people wrapped around the building, wrapped around the pond. You get inside of the building, it looks like you're in some type of amusement park ride with the lines snaking back and forth on each other. And that was just for the general election. And during the runoff, we do have a online system that shows you average wait times at the locations throughout Cobb County. And it was to the point where it was easier for me to drive to the other side of Cobb County, and I'm about 5 minutes from this location, than it was to come to here when this location was open for early voting. So the drive time, counting the drive time, the vote time, and getting back, I finished before I would have finished if I had come down to my nearest polling location for early voting.
Wow.
And I did that trip twice with my wife because she also saw the same thing, and it's just, well, let's just go do this item. And it becomes really inconvenient because you have to worry about things like childcare. Mine is not as established as Kelly's are, but when you have a 10-year-old and you're having to keep them occupied while you're in line for about 30 minutes or longer, depending on where you're at. And like Marvin said, you can't, and well, Rebecca said, you can't bring electronics into the thing.
That's right.
Oh.
And you get a very stern talking to about having a phone or something to, as you're trying to keep someone occupied. Yeah. The other part of this is during the primary, my wife went to vote out in East Cobb. And if someone around here, East Cobb is not necessarily a minority area. It is known just to be very suburban and such. Easy access of voting. My wife went there. She was there for 6 hours for what normally takes maybe an hour getting there and back. And once again, because you can't have phones or any access, I'm wondering what's going on with her. I haven't heard from her in hours. Yeah. Wondering if she's okay. And then, so I'm scrambling to, change our plans, go pick up child from daycare, camps, and things like that. Because, you're in the line for that long. You don't want to jump out of it to go say what's happening because you don't want to go back to the end of the line or just leave altogether. So she got there about 2, and I'm 8 o'clock. I'm like, what's going on? What happened? I took care of those things, but it shouldn't be this way.
Wow.
I've been in Cobb for a long time. I remember when it was like you said, there were more precincts. You could just go to your local precinct on election day, then vote before work, after work, getting home is fine, then leave and not have to take a day off from work, plan around it, find someone to watch child or whatnot. And kind of just watch the polls move away to more inconvenient locations, change, split, and it's been something else over the past 16 years or so.
Well, Well, thanks for not giving up.